mga hironi taku ingoa. Mā tō raurou, mā tōku raurou, ka ora tō tātou reo Māori. I grew up in a wide area in Napier with my three sisters. My parents worked to provide for us. They weren't affiliated with crimes or gangs. I chose this path. My parents made sure we had 3 meals a day, clothes on our backs, and a roof over our heads. They owned the house we grew up in. I guess we had a privileged upbringing at this time. I have good memories of my younger years, including spending a lot of time at the beach as a family. My dad died when I was 8 years old. I remember it plain as day. I never cried at all when I was told, and at the tangi. I had no empathy at a young age and bottled up my feelings. After my father passed, my mother used to beat me frequently with sticks and the kettle called daily, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, for talking at the table, not eating with my mouth closed, minor things, just being a kid. I learned to tolerate pain until it didn't hurt anymore. I hated my mum, and the rage that I had installed deep within me later became my inner strength. I learned to tolerate, at the age of 14, I stole my first car and taught myself to drive at other people's expense. In high school, I was selling car stereos, mags, and subwoofers to adult students. I was cashed up and used to buy alcohol, drugs, and get money for the next master plan of being a criminal. I got kicked out of high school at fifth form for selling weed. We were bunking, I had made a sale and convinced the client to roll up and have a session, not knowing that the deputy principal had followed us. I was rolling up because there was a few of us. I looked up and everyone looked like they had seen a ghost. And they all scampered, and there he was, the principal and me, caught with the joints in my mouth and a bag of weed on the park bench next to me. My mum had to come in, and I was brought before the board of trustees, and I was expelled. I got a mean hiding. No other school would enroll me. I didn't really care, but didn't realise how this would impact me later on in life. I left home at 17, and I thought I knew everything. I was stealing WRXs, Evos, and V8s. I had set up an enterprise selling cars for $2.5 grand. They would chop them up, pull the running gears out, and then put them into legit cars. Business was booming. The money I was making, I graduated to the next level of my life, drug level. I started to get in trouble with the cops a lot at this time. I was buying drugs off gang members. This was my main source of income. Now this sounds like quite an appealing lifestyle. The consequence of that though was I was in and out of jail, got a long rap sheet thicker than an encyclopedia, which hinders me to this day. Because of this, I will never get security clearance, so there are certain jobs I can never do. At the time I was looking over my shoulder, police were busting me all the time. Sometimes I would get away with it, sometimes I wouldn't. I was well known by the police. Here's a story for you. There was a warrant out for my arrest for assaulting a cop, and I didn't turn up to court. I knew what the outcome was going to be, so I hightailed it until it within the bush. I was hiding in there for a year. I was growing dope for a gang, and I was a fugitive. Life was great. We ended up getting sprayed by helicopters, and I shot at one. It was a big scale operation, and we just made it out before the cops came to find us. This was my initiation into the gang. At 21 years old, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. I had 9 tumours in my abdomen, and my lungs were riddled. This was my bad karma. Whether you believe it or not, what you sow is what you reap. Doctors cut my stomach open, laying my intestines beside me to cut out the tumours. I had 48 staples to close me up. Then I had chemo, lost my ear, and had 4 lung operations. 2 in 1 term of imprisonment and 2 in my last term. I was often in custody, I was often remanded in custody, 18 months here, 1 year there, and a couple of months here and there. I got sentenced to 2.5 years for a cop chase as well. When I got out, I never went to my cancer treatment. You would have thought this would have been enough to change me, but it made me worse. I formed a nothing to lose attitude. I was going out in a blazing glory. When I look back now, in a nutshell, jail saved my life. I have spent 10 years of my life in jail. I found brotherhood and fatherly figures in the gangs. This filled the void of losing my dad at a young age. I loved violence and trained every day, 3 times a day, to be as ruthless as I could be. I've had over 50 fights in my time. I've never lost. Cops, gangsters, kickboxers, anyone, anytime. I thought this was my destiny to be a thug, and I didn't care about anyone. I tapped into the rage and hatred I had gotten so used to in my childhood, as well as no regard for my own life. In my last term of imprisonment, I was sentenced to 4.5 years for aggravated assault on the cop, possession to supply Class A, deals in Class A, and escaping lawful custody. I took it on the chin and pleaded guilty, as I was looking at double digits and they found the drugs on me, which I couldn't deny. I went in at 27 and I came out when I was 31. I spent most of my time in 23-hour lockup, as I wasn't allowed to associate with other prisoners. I was considered too dangerous. I was caged like an animal. This was going to be the cycle for the rest of my life. Insanely, I was okay with it. Hurting my family